Today, fast-tracking the recovery. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to the latest post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Today I'm joined again by Robbie Barwick. Hi Robbie.
Hello Martin.
How you going?
Good. And we've got some good news, so I'm feeling rather pumped up.
Well, let's touch on the good news and then we can take the conversation further.
Well, I think we can announce a qualified victory in the fight against the cash ban. It's very important that people know this. It's worth saying now because I don't know how the government's necessarily going to announce it, or even if they are, probably just be quietly withdrawn. But we have it on good authority through a good source that the government has no intention to proceed with the bill. So it's a qualified victory. We'll know one day down the track that it's definitely true, right? But it's a victory for the people who watch this show, who then go and do something. That's the key thing, right? We saw this. This is quite an extraordinary fight, and sometime we should probably do a show, just recap of the whole thing. But that effort really blew them away. The thousands of people who got involved, made those submissions, made those calls, blew them away. And we went from, what was it, back in August, Stephen Jones casually saying that's the Labor Stephen Jones casually saying to the Australian Financial Review, oh yeah, we'll support it. Who uses cash anyway? to now it looks like it's dead in the water.
Yeah, and kudos to all those people across Australia who wrote emails, signed petitions, made a fuss. It shows that actually this can and does work, and actually social media is a very powerful platform for making sure that those pollies can't forget the real people.
It absolutely is. It's been a godsend in that respect. Sometimes it drives me nuts for other reasons, but that said, it's really given people a voice. But people have to. It's like it's a platform. People have to bother to take advantage of that, and that's what people have done. Right? If the public engage in the political process, we can make a difference, and that's what we want to talk about now. So I'm representing the Citizens Party and a broader coalition of people who want to make a difference with the economic recovery. We're approaching it with the same point of view. We, the public, ordinary citizens, by engaging in the process, can make a difference, and we have to do that now with the economy more generally.
Well, it's interesting, Robbie, I don't know whether you saw, but the Daily Mail published an article today, in fact quoting me, on the fact that we have to actually invest in infrastructure. We've got to do things differently if we're going to actually take the economy to where it potentially could go to for the benefit of Australians. And this is right in the middle of that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. No, I haven't seen that. That's great. Every viewer should find that and share it everywhere. That's excellent.
Put a link below.
Put all over Facebook, Twitter, the works. Okay, so just to keep this as brief as possible, I have to start with an apology. I'm about to announce a new petition.
No, not another one.
Not another one. No, okay. And there's a reason why. Last time I was on the show, we talked about a general petition for a national bank, which is for investing in infrastructure, etc., as you said. The problem is it was too general, and the proposal that I laid out on that show to take, there's an existing public credit institution, and it's the only one in Australia, a public investment institution called the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. It has a narrow mandate to invest in clean energy technology, and it has to make a commercial return, right? But the fact that it's there carries great potential, and it could easily, in the current circumstances, easily be expanded into a powerful national development bank, right? And the benefit of a national development bank is that because you can operate these things without the normal commercial pressures of shareholders, etc., wanting the highest returns. They always make profits, these banks, but that's not what they're there for. And they can make investments in the long-term infrastructure investments and back provide backing for industries, including people tell me, some people, the naysayers say, oh, if the private banks aren't willing to invest in it, can't be, and because it's not commercially viable, can't be any good. Well, these sort of the banks, kind of banks we're talking about, they can help farmers through the tough times. I mean, do we want farmers to get through the tough times so they can keep feeding us, right? This is the sort of thing that the public bank can do. It has that flexibility that the private banks tend not to do, right? And it can apply that approach in many different areas. So, for instance, I've just written an article for our publication, the Alert Service, on how this bank could revive Australia's local government municipalities, which are especially further down from you, etc., where the bushfires were. I mean, some of these things they're not going to survive. Financially, they are crushed, right? And you need, something like this to come in. And for the article I've written, I dug up this history of the Commonwealth Bank from 1923, and there's a great section in there on all the local council projects, infrastructure projects. In the first 10 years of the Commonwealth Bank, it funded infrastructure projects by local councils all around Australia, right? And it's the kind of infrastructure we take for granted now. That's what a development bank can do, and that's what we needed. So we've got this proposal. It's having we've had an unprecedented response in Parliament, Martin, and that is across the board, including in the major parties. Now, I can't say more than that, but people would recognise I've been at this a long time, right? We know what it's like to engage with the Parliament. I'm often citing the names of minor parties here that have got behind proposals. The two major parties are hard nuts to crack. We've had unprecedented response to this proposal from inside the major parties. Why? Because they know they better deliver on an economic recovery, right? I think I just saw a statistic there. We've got 6 million people on JobKeeper, right? We've got, well over 1 million people officially unemployed, or close to 1 million people officially unemployed, or should be counted as officially unemployed. And that has to be addressed, and you've got to address it in a way that is sustainable by putting our economy on a productive footing. That's what this proposal is about.
Yeah, very important. I mean, Kohler said the other day, 58% of Australians are basically being supported by the government at the moment because of everything that's going on.
Yep.
So we have to find an economic formula that's different from the one in the past. And I don't think that the commercial sector is going to be able to do what's required. They're going to want to chase the old mortgage lending and all those things. So we need a much more focused approach of big investment, big infrastructure investment particularly, to take us into the future.
All right, so let me just read out the petition, and then there'll be links below for people to sign it. When I say links, I mean 2 links. We're doing this as a dual petition that's both on change.org, which is useful because it can go viral. It's not that much useful beyond that, I've found. Change.org does petitions and all kinds of things, but it can go viral. We did pretty well with the Change.org petition on the cash ban. So it's on Change.org, but it's also going to be a physical petition presented to Parliament, and people can sign that on our website, and you get it sent to you or you can print it off, sign on the website, print it off, send the details to us, and then that's all compiled, and we present it through a local member of Parliament, and they go and present it to Parliament, right? And so, the other benefit of there's one more benefit to Change.org petitions. Every time someone signs that, a message is generated that's sent to a list of members of Parliament we nominate. So there's constant engagement coming from there, but then an impressive physical petition can be presented that gets politicians' attention, right? So here's the petition. I'll read it out, and then please support it. Fast track Australia to economic recovery and prosperity. Expand the CEFC into a national development bank. To the Honourable the Speaker and members of the House of Representatives, this petition of concerned Australians draws to the attention of the House that millions of Australians are suddenly out of work due to the coronavirus shutdown of an economy already struggling under record national and household debt and excessively concentrated in financial and real estate speculation, raw materials exports, tourism and foreign education. Many regional communities were already devastated by bushfire and drought. There is no guarantee all these lost jobs will snap back when public health restrictions are lifted. Australia has immense potential for economic development in both the major cities and regions that would produce real wealth from expanded manufacturing and agricultural production. Investing in this potential through new infrastructure, industrial development and training will upgrade the economy and create millions of jobs directly and indirectly. The government's existing investment institution, the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, could be expanded into a national development bank for this purpose. As well as supporting clean energy technology, it could invest in water, power, transportation and high-speed rail infrastructure, and in new industries, including through loans to federal, state and local government agencies for desperately needed public projects, and to entrepreneurs to initiate and expand industrial production. We therefore ask the House to amend the Clean Energy Finance Corporation Act 2012 to expand the CEFC into a powerful national development bank to revive and transform the economy and create jobs and prosperity both now and for the future. So that's the petition. The reason we're launching it now is because Parliament will sit in 3 weeks, and that's good. There was all the opposition parties pressured Morrison to make sure there was another sitting. I'm involved in finalising draft legislation that Bob Katter, the member for Kennedy, intends to introduce in the next sitting of Parliament. There's been an indication that he will be accommodated in that regard. A lot of things have been up in the air, but that should happen, right? As I said, there's been an unprecedented response already. So we're encouraging people through our supporters and through our show, if people have watched that, to call their members of Parliament, engage with them, engage with state members. This is actually really across the board. State members of Parliament, local councils. Everyone needs to know that we can't hamstring our ability to have an economic recovery because we stick to neoliberal principles that the government shouldn't be involved in anything, right? That would be ridiculous, and especially when you have this power of what a development bank could do. And I can go through, I think I mentioned on the show last time, lots and lots of, I'm getting flooded with examples of lost opportunities in Australia because it wasn't backed here and it was poached overseas, and it's just, it's Australia's recent history is littered with it. So in the next 3 weeks, before that bill's introduced, these petitions can make a big difference, right, in terms of keeping it front and centre in the members of Parliament's mind, right? And that's why we're launching it now. We're going to have a big push on this next 3 weeks for it. So please sign the petition, sign both, right? The change.org one and the one on our website. Get involved. There's other instructions on our website for what people can do. There's contact details for who they can call. Please get involved. Send a message, leave an email for me if you want to know some of these examples of what I'm talking about. If you have examples of industries that people are desperate for backing for, but they can't get it from the private banks, let us know. We'll publicise it, right? Local infrastructure projects that have never been able to get off the ground because the government's lost its vision for too long, right? That are the sort of projects that will, not just create jobs directly, but they improve the economy. That's why you build these kind of infrastructure projects. They make production work better. They make transportation work better, etc. Let us know, right? We can publicise those. I take great pleasure in bringing these things to politicians' attention because they're actually quite exciting, and most of them don't have a clue what the potential is out there, but the potential is enormous. So be excited about this, get involved, and share these links, get them out everywhere, and we can take these crusty farts in Parliament and get them actually thinking differently in a way that, we don't have to be stuck with millions of unemployed people. And it would be a tragedy if we did, and the consequences would get very bad very fast, right? We can turn this around and create a much better economy on the back of it.
Yeah, very important, Robbie, and we'll put the links below. It's also worth saying, of course, that with interest rates so low, now is precisely the time to power up that funding and get it invested in real things for the real future, not just those things in the electoral cycle, right, but actually taking a much more strategic view of how we can shape our economy. And this is a very, very important platform for making that happen.
And here's just as an example of what we're up against, I just saw a headline today that the property lobby is begging for immigration to be opened up to get that demand up again. And the banks are part of that property lobby. They want that demand up again because that's what they lend against. So all the credit that goes into the country goes into the property bubble first, and then there's filters through the what they call the wealth effect, supposedly, right? Well, geez Louise, we'll never become a productive economy if we just resort to that, right? That's the snapback. The snapback's rubbish. Transform the economy in a way that, just look at the details. It makes perfect sense, but it requires. What the government my ideological opponents like Harry. All the government role in this is representative of is joint effort. There are things individuals can't do on their own, or a business can't do on its own, right? The government is joint effort. Yes, governments can go crazy and get out of control, but I tell you what, the governments that we highlight throughout history who did use the Commonwealth Bank, they didn't do that, right? And we have an excellent country for it. In fact, I'll show you this. You might have seen on my show. I can provide it for Martin. I did this chart that showed when we built the Snowy Mountain scheme in 1949, we had the highest government debt in our history of well over 100% of GDP. And we embarked on a project that was 15% of GDP at the time, right? $800 million, 15% of GDP. The equivalent project today would be $300 billion. No politician would be game to propose anything like that. But when we finished it 25 years later, the economy had grown tenfold in that time, thanks to that kind of investment. And the debt was 26% of GDP, had come right down as a percentage of the economy. And the cost of the Snowy was 1.5% of GDP because the economy had grown so big, right? So, but you don't invest, as Bob Catter would say, you don't invest in football stadiums. That's not the kind of infrastructure we're talking about. Things that make the economy work better. And that's what the government needs. The government can either be the borrower or the lender. And it's the lender that has the power. Don't leave the power of banking to the private banking cartel, right? For the common good of all of us, for the sake of our future, right? Let's start transforming the economy of Australia using the banking power.
Absolutely. And it's all there. The legislation is all but, just needs a slight tweak because
just a little bit.
The entity is already set up there. The funding could definitely be pointed that way, and it could make a big difference, and it could be done quickly. And that's one of the things we also need. Yes,
and just one last point, Martin, because I told you I was going to make. We are not proposing a shift of emphasis by the CEFC away from clean energy. No. We're not proposing that. We are proposing expanding its emphasis to include more than just clean energy technology. And arguably, what we're proposing and the changes we propose to make will allow it to do more in the clean energy area, because currently it's hamstrung by it has to have a commercial return to its investments, right? It could do a lot more it has the power to set up subsidiaries like a venture capital subsidiary that can try the more speculative stuff that isn't established yet, and some of it will fail, but some of it will work, and if it works, it'll work really well, right? And it could do more than that. So you could it's just expanding the whole agenda of the CEFC, not detracting from what it already does. That's very important for people to understand. The Greens should get behind this, and people in the Labor Party who helped set it up for that purpose, they shouldn't think narrowly and, it's got to stick to that. No, let's expand it. It's there. It doesn't take much. Expand it, and we can do a lot more with it.
Yeah. And, we did it with the cash ban. We can basically get a bit of momentum happening with the petitions there and make a difference, because it's really important for the future of Australia.
Yep. Very true.
Robbie, thanks for your time once again, and we'll keep people updated as we progress.
Thanks, Martin.
Cheers.
Cheers.